Hey guys, and welcome to the last part of our low poly animal project. In this portion, I'm going to show you guys how to take this half of, for instance, my cat, duplicate it, flip it over, and then add any brightness or contrast that you would like to. Now you might notice that I went ahead and I filled in my background color because I was just too excited and I wanted to see what it would look like towards the end. But the first thing that we want to do, just to get a nice little reveal of what our polygons look like, is turn off this grid. So what we're going to do is go to View, Show, and then click on Grid just to hide it temporarily. If we ever need to bring it back, we can always just go back to View and Grid to bring it back, just in case you miss some polygons or whatever it may be. So this is what it looks like right now. I feel like it's a little bit low contrast, so I'm going to adjust that, but that'll come later. First, we want to go ahead and duplicate this image or this layer of the cat. There are two ways to do that. You can either right click and duplicate, or you can go to Layer, Duplicate Layer. I'll just do that. And I'm going to go ahead and rename my layers right now. This will be left cat. And then I'm going to name this one right cat. And the right cat, I'm going to just click on it, go to Edit, Transform, and then flip horizontally. And it might just take a second to do that, which is totally okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and click and drag using my move tool this half of the cat. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and I'm just going to line it up pretty much perfectly with the other half of the cat. So then when I zoom out, I have a perfectly symmetrical image of the full cat. I am also going to just hide my guides after this point. These are the blue lines right here. So I'm going to go to View, Show, and then click Guides just so they are hidden again. I want everyone to take a moment here and make sure that you save, because you can run into problems at this point. So now we have our final image of the cat in symmetry. I'm going to make a smart object out of these two layers together so that I can make adjustments to it, and if I ever needed to, I can go back and make changes. So I'm going to click my right cat layer, hold Shift, and click my left cat layer so they're both selected. And then I'm just going to go to right click and convert to smart object. So that's going to combine those two layers and turn it into one smart object layer. So now I can go ahead and add any adjustments I want to this, like adjusting the brightness and contrast, which I think I want to do. So I'm just going to add an adjustment layer to it. And I'm going to go to brightness and contrast. And I am just going to play around with it until I'm happy with it. Definitely want to bump the contrast up and maybe make it a little bit darker. I'll even try the use legacy and see how that affects it. Yeah, I think I'm liking the look of this more. And I'm also going to go ahead and add a vibrance adjustment, just to make the colors a little bit more vibrant. Now, one quick thing to note, when I made these adjustments, it not only affected the cat, but it also affected the background. And if you want to avoid that, if you don't want it to make any changes to your background, what you can do is right-click this and then go to Clipping Mask and do the same with this. Right-click it and go to Clipping Mask. And that way it's only going to apply those changes to the cat, as you can see. It's not applying it to the background anymore. So I'm pretty happy with this. This next part's going to be optional. If you would like to add it, you can. And if you don't want to add it, you don't have to. But I'm going to make a quick new layer and put it underneath the cat layer. I'm going to use my Ellipse Select tool, and I'm just going to create this little oval at the bottom of the cat. kind of like this. And then I'm going to fill this in with black. Edit, fill, black. I'm just going to add a little bit of a blur to it. So I'm going to deselect it first. Go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur. And I'm just going to add a little bit of a blur. I think 30 is a good number. And I'm happy with that, so I'll press OK and just drop the opacity down as well. So we have like a nice little floating shadow effect on the cat. So the last thing that I'm gonna do, and again, this is completely optional, just like the little shadow underneath the cat is, I'm gonna add this really cool vignette that's gonna bring a lot more focus to the cat. So I'm just gonna make a duplicate of this background layer, and then I'm gonna darken it as well. So I'm just gonna go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast, and make it significantly darker, probably to about there. Press OK. Then I'm gonna take my eraser tool, and I'm gonna get a huge size on my eraser and set the hardness down to 0. Even larger than 1,000, probably like 8,000. I want a very large circle. And then I'm gonna set the opacity down to about 25%. And I'm going to just click right in the center of my background. And as I keep going, I'll just keep making my brush smaller and smaller and then erasing out the dark parts of this image until it's to my liking. And lastly, I'm just gonna set the layer blend mode. I set it to linear burn because I think that looks really cool. It gave this really nice like dark pink effect to it. So now when I zoom out, it kind of gives the illusion that this cat head is floating. Just remember the vignette that I made, that's what this is called, and the shadow underneath the cat are completely optional. So I'm gonna rename them and I'm just gonna call them optional, just so you guys remember. Vignette optional. And once you are done, you want to go ahead and save this in a particular way. One, I'm going to save it as a PSD just for my own reference if I ever want to go back and make any changes to it. And secondly, we are going to save this as a PNG. And the reason being is because this is going to end up being a very large file, so it might be difficult to submit on Schoology. So to save this as a PNG, we're going to go to File, Export as, PNG, and then it is going to come up with these little options for you, this option box over here. So the width and height, you can lower this. If you want to keep it for yourself, then you can make a high quality version of it by keeping these same measurements. But to turn it in, we do want to drop this down a little bit. So for the height, I'm just going to set it to 3,000. And then what I did is I just hit tab on my keyboard after I typed in 3,000, and then it's going to automatically adjust the width for you as well. Then I'm going to save it. And that is it for this project. See you guys on the next one.